Our next speaker is Mrs. Shole Zamini. She is a graduate of physics of the University of Vienna, and she's also a graduate of the University of Sharif in Tehran. She is a women's rights activist, and he is a member of Südwind in its Geneva office, and she will address us about women rights defenders in Iran. Please. I'm grateful to my colleagues for having organized this session. My idea was to talk about the defenders of women's rights, those who have actually worked on women's rights in Iran in the past years, and the difficulties that they had to face as a result of their work. But I saw that many of these friends are actually still in Iran, and they're continuing with their initiatives and their activities, and I realized that maybe I should talk about this in a different way, and to continue from where Mehdi just talked about, that this idea of the government that high-speed internet is actually will lead to unethical activities. And this is the idea that the government actually had about 100 years ago in Iran. They thought that if women go to school and they are educated, then it will lead to an unethical society. And it seems that this vision or this idea has not changed about women. Women as creatures who are they should be isolated from society. We see that in Iran, and although they try to great extent, obviously, to have a special program for women, and in a way to deprive women from the public arena or from the public sphere, and for example, we see that in the buses and in the transportation in the country. For example, you have women and men segregated and separated. Although the university was actually mixed, but for the past few years they tried to segregate women from men from women, and they have tried to do that also in very small areas and small universities in different areas. And also they've taken that to work to the working spaces also. They go there and they say that there should be this place should be, this area of the building should be for women workers, and that area should be for men. Even the parking lots, for example, are women and men, and they are separated. And for example, they have you have open space areas where women or men can cycle, but they should be separated also. And so what you realize is that being a woman in Iran and being seen in public in Iran is actually considered as a security issue. And in any place where you are a woman and you're not invisible, if you are visible and they can see you, then you immediately become a security element or a security threatening issue. And this itself has not changed at all in the government of Mr. Rouhani. The spokesperson from the government himself, he says that if women do not respect their veil, then they are ill. Not respecting veiling in public places, it means that you are ill, and women who do not do that, it means that they are ill, they have a problem. And so this is the way society looks at women, and this is how laws are established and looked at in our country. And what they want to do is that bit by bit to push women aside and to put women back in their house, to deprive them, because you can see that in the educational space, in the education space, and you can see it in the working space, and you can see it in many different places where women and men have always mingled and were mixed. You see that from the age of 13, which is the age for women to be allowed to get married. Women are allowed to get married from 13. They are encouraged to leave school at that age. And as you know, that in Iran, education is not compulsory, and so if families, they get to this conclusion that they don't have any chance, for example, they don't have any opportunity or any possibility to pay for their children's education up to 12th grade, then they are free to make any choice. They are free to actually deprive their children from being educated. And so if you bear in mind the vision that society has about women and also the fact that education is not compulsory, then the discourse that you feel in society that is gaining more and more power nowadays is to encourage women to bring kids to this world and to be the basically to be the person who is in charge of bringing children to this world and educating them and bringing them up. And so a law is being right now passed, or being proposed, sorry, to basically encourage and to give more social benefits to those families who have more children. And obviously everything and all the programs related to family planning that was very, very important for our society and for family planning purposes, they were all banned. And the usage of condoms and other ways to prevent women from getting pregnant is actually being banned. And not only for from stopping women from unwanted pregnancy, but also protecting women from sexual transmitted illnesses and infections. But we see that in some areas of our country where women are not allowed to stop or stop unwanted pregnancies, and in those places of the country where there is absolutely no help from medical help, then we see also women's life are in danger when it comes to time of giving birth. Some areas in the country where you see that girls are not allowed to go to school, some areas of the country where you see that the family exerts pressure on their daughters to get married and encourage them to get pregnant, and you see also very young girls getting pregnant and their life being in danger. And so in these kind of conditions that I'm describing to you, we see that we have women rights activists who are facing a society with all of these elements that I just mentioned to you, and these activists actually have to work in that society, have to work to create a different culture and to talk to women about pregnancy, ways of stopping pregnancy. A law is being right now discussed, and we're hoping that it's not passed. It will not be passed. It's a law that actually comes. Actually, a law is being now discussed now and is not being passed that says that the punishment for women rights activists will be 2 to 7 years of prison. And so what I want to say here is that it's not that what these women rights activists have to face is not only the fact that the government looks at them as security threateners, but they have to also work against the culture of that country. In 2006, after the protest of women in 2006 in Tehran, where a great number of women and men came out in the street, many of these women rights activists who were there present at this demonstration, they were beaten up by the government officials. One of them, her hand was broken, and after that she was sentenced to prison. because she was accused of participating in a demonstration, and of participating in a demonstration where they talk about equality between men and women. And so this is the kind of atmosphere, this is the kind of field where these women have to work. And it's very hard for these women, for example, to have license for them to get together, to have a small gathering of these activists, or these activists with a group of women. These kind of gatherings are declared illegal. And this was done during the time of Mr. Ahmadinejad, and during the current time, these networks of women activists have actually been destroyed, completely destroyed, because they were banned at the time of Ahmadinejad. And many people had their hopes high on Mr. Rouhani and a change that can happen now, but unfortunately it was not like that. We can see that after the death of Mrs. Simine Behbahani, who was a great and a very famous poet in Iran, and she was a great women's rights activist, we see that the government was very nervous about the funeral of this woman. They have limited the space for these people to actually, for the women to get together for the funeral of Mrs. Behbahani. I don't want to take your time, because I can talk, I know, because we have another speaker here and you have also questions, Q&A here, but just I wanted to just to share with you what Mansour Shojai, she's a women's rights activist and she's currently living outside of Iran. I would like to share with you what she says. And I don't want to obviously quote people who are working in Iran, so I would like to talk about her because she is living outside. She said, with the rising of the arrest or the detainees of women activists in Iran, the government is putting more and more pressure on them. A number of these women are in prison, and a big number of these women were actually obliged to leave the country, and those who are right now in Iran are under severe pressure. The network of women rights activists has been unfortunately limited, and the activities obviously have been limited among these women groups because they were severely oppressed by the government officials, and no gathering has taken place in the past 2 years of women activists in Iran. We talked about Mrs. Behbahani, and she said that, for example, she had asked permission to have a women gathering, and the government did not accept her wish. And at that time, obviously, the women had a bit more freedom. They were able to get together in 2006 and to get together and to have that gathering and hope that things will change and women's rights will be advanced. But unfortunately, things changed drastically from that date on. But we are hoping that, bearing in mind and knowing that there's a lot of limitation on these groups of women in Iran, we are hoping that at least small groups will get together and these activities actually start again. Women do their best now to stop the approval or the passing of these laws, but unfortunately they are under severe pressure by the government, and they really need the international community's protection and support. Thank you very much.